We've got some news this morning on Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs has reached a $3.9 billion settlement agreement with Malaysia. This involves that case involving State Investment Fund 1MDB. The Malaysian government just issuing a news release confirming the settlement. And Goldman had been accused, you might remember, we talked about it for over a year, misleading investors over bond sales that raised $6.5 billion for the fund. Of course, this had involved Leonardo DiCaprio and all sorts of characters, including we were talking about that book, The $1 Billion Whale, which chronicled so much of it. We should note that the transaction, or the settlement really is what we should describe it as, a little bit more than what had been expected in terms of where analysts were. Analysts were expecting to be about $3 billion. This is at $3.9 billion. But nonetheless, this has been a cloud over the company. You're watching that stock rise this morning, a little over 1% now, 1.25%. We should also note that the way the structure of the settlement, there's a guarantee. It's about, I can give you the exact numbers, but it's not 3.9 unto itself. Some of it is some of the assets that are being returned to Malaysia, and effectively Goldman is guaranteeing some of it. So I want to start with the Goldman story for a moment, because you wrote the book on him, Bill, and I know you've been following this case throughout. $3.9 billion, more than most analysts had anticipated. Originally, they had reserved for $1.9 billion. The analyst estimate was around $3 billion. There's a bit of juggling in terms of how those numbers are ultimately going to come down. A guarantee from Goldman for part of it, cash for part of it as well. But is this game-changing for them? Does it lift a cloud for them? How should we think about it?
Well, it's all of those things, Andrew. It's definitely something, as you know, that David Solomon, the relatively new CEO of Goldman Sachs, had to get behind him. So that was the most important thing. He dispatched his chief lieutenant, John F.W. Rogers, to Malaysia to get this done. They're going to pay $2.5 billion in cash and $1.4 billion in a guarantee. They've a guarantee of assets to make sure that the Malaysian government gets the value that they believe that they were entitled to. According to Goldman's release, they've done an analysis of those assets, and so they don't think that they're going to have to be a call on that guarantee. But it is more than people thought. It's important to get it behind them. It's more than they reserved for, and that's the way these negotiations go. But the most important thing was to get it behind them, and now David Solomon has done that.